My first trip to Vietnam was in 2000, but I'd been interested in Vietnam for 40 years or more. I watched TV when I was in high school and saw images of the war. I saw images of Vietnam. I thought the war was terribly wrong. So when I went to college, I joined the anti-war movement. And after college, every now and then I would think, time to go see Vietnam. So finally I did. And I went to Vietnam Friendship Village, a center for Agent Orange victims. Really touched me because there were groups of Vietnamese veterans who had been heavily sprayed with Agent Orange. And there were kids there, handicapped kids with a range of all kinds of terrible diseases who were the third generation. And I thought, here's a place to do something. And my idea was to set up organic gardens and organic orchards. It was called the Organic Gardening Project. And we involved lots and lots of people. There were Vietnamese farmers involved, there was the staff of the village, there were the kids at the village, there were lots of volunteers, hundreds really, Vietnamese college kids, international volunteers from all around, and support from a lot of organizations. In fact, in 2006, we won a World Bank sponsored prize in a program called Innovation Day. The whole project really resonated throughout the country and led to TV appearances and lots of newspaper articles. I got to be known as Mr. Clean Vegetables John. It was really a great project, really had the support of a lot of local farmers and the village itself, and this project's now continuing under their leadership. Around that time, because of the success of the project, I started to think about doing a project of broader scope. And I'd been to the Northern Highlands between Hanoi and the Chinese border. And it's green and it's beautiful, but I was quite concerned to see the environmental degradation there and the level of poverty of farmers living there. It's peopled by ethnic minorities, which make up 15% of the population, different kinds of groups, and also the ethnic majority people from the lowlands. Many of them went up there during the war, mothers and their kids escaping the bombing. So you have this mixed population relying on the traditional crop of the minority people, which is cassava, introduced in the late 17th century by the Portuguese. Not viable today. Today, what you see is barren hillsides. You see hillsides with cassava planted on it. You see lots of runoff of water, which has not only removed topsoil from the hillsides, but it's also damaged the watersheds as the water runs off towards the valleys. Something else that was obvious in the Northern Highlands and is obvious today is the level of poverty among farmers living there, living in huts made out of mud and bamboo, often never seeing a doctor in their lives, frequently dying from treatable diseases like diarrhea, children particularly, and old people, pneumonia, tuberculosis, with low levels of education, with poor hygiene. So these two issues, poverty and environmental degradation, were something that I was interested in addressing. And with some Vietnamese friends, I went up to a place in the Northern Highlands, Tuan Quang Province, and helped them envision and set up a fruit farm. Fruit growing wasn't a big part of the agricultural economy of the province, so we brought in good varieties of longan and other fruit like oranges, pomelos, tangerines. And it thrived. They're being grown in an organic fashion with compost made from manure and crushed sugarcane, rice straw, sometimes rice husks, water plants like water hyacinth. Already in areas where the topsoil was deteriorated, you see topsoil that's good. And trying traditional methods as well, because organic agriculture was, of course, the way of all farmers before chemical fertilizers were brought in. Making natural pesticides out of rice wine, garlic, chili, tobacco. This really works, and the farm has attracted a lot of interest, a lot of support from the province. So that was first venture out in the remote rural countryside with Vietnamese, setting up a Vietnamese farm. One thing that's happening right now is that the pockets of first growth forest that exist are being more and more protected by the Vietnamese government for two reasons. One, to sequester carbon, and to protect soil and to protect watersheds. So this is happening. It's also attracting tourists because a lot of people recognize the serious environmental problems that are going on in the world. And so what Green Vietnam wants to do is to train farmers in areas where there are pockets of indigenous forest to grow fruit orchards, to restore the environment by planting trees, and also to raise their standard of living by raising crops of fruit trees, which can bring in up to 20 times the income on the same area that they would get from growing cassava and other annual crops. But it's not as easy as it sounds. Why? There's the most obvious problem that it takes 3 to 5 years after planting to get to harvest. Second reason is because it requires a higher level of skill. Also, the inputs, farmers are too poor sometimes to buy this themselves. And another problem is that farmers in the remote countryside don't have direct access to the market and are ripped off by middlemen. So marketing is an important part of this. So what can we do? At the farm that I helped set up, they're now growing organic vegetables. Some of them are being grown as undercrops. Some of them are being grown on the side. There's a growing market of expats and Vietnamese in Hanoi who are willing to pay a high price for fully organic vegetables. One project we want to start is planting forest gardens or analog forests to act as buffer zones around indigenous forests to produce non-timber forest products and provide an alternative to cutting down trees, often valuable hardwood trees, that grow in these forests and really help local people develop a love for trees, which is the basis for all these projects. We also are interested in doing green technology for generating electricity and also for hygiene. The Green Vietnam project addresses two huge problems in the world, poverty and environmental degradation. And they're two problems that are in fact closely interrelated. And they're two problems that are affected by climate change, biodiversity, which is really central to the health of the planet, and the success of agriculture is disappearing at a very rapid rate. I'm really grateful to have the opportunity to work on something which I think is crucial to the livelihoods and enjoyment of future generations. We're addressing these central problems still in a small way, but we've generated a lot of support in Vietnam and abroad. We welcome your support. We thank you for your support, and thank you for your interest in the project.